this is a really exciting and intriguing space for me, as we explore this concept of what do we mean when we say spiritual? Because it's a word
Right.
that gets used a lot, right? So we use it in so many different contexts, and we use it almost sometimes unthinkingly. But what do we actually mean? And this was a challenge that was presented in Avanti to us when we looked beyond the Hindu faith schools to look at the wider education system and our involvement with that. So now we do have 5 schools of the 12 that are in Avanti that are not faith schools.
Oh.
Right, so they're community schools, but they share the same ethos. So they still share the ethos of having spiritual insight at the core of our offer. So when we were exploring that, you can imagine the questions that were coming up for us is that, okay, well, that's all well and good in theory, but what does it actually mean? What does spirituality and spiritual insight mean and look like in a setting that is not a religious or faith-oriented setting? And I think the point that you picked out there about it being personal is at the core of our response or our answer to that, which is that there is an understanding around, like, whether we call it consciousness or spirituality, however we want to identify the most fundamental nature of myself, right? At a most fundamental level, my identity. And that having equivalence in terms of all living beings, like a sense of deep equality at a spiritual level, because you can't, I mean, just a side point, you can't get equality at material level, right? That's just, it's impossible. But you can get it at a spiritual level. So we talk a lot of the world's talking a lot about equality. They can't get there if you just want to talk about it from a physical perspective.
Why not?
Because you can't have two things which are equivalent, right? So if you're just talking about the physical aspect of oneself, if we don't think about anything beyond the physical in a very reductive sense,
Right.
what is exactly the same? I mean,
Even twins.
right? My left hand and my right hand are not the same.
Right.
What to speak about me and you,
Right.
So, so if we want to get to real equality, we have to start thinking about the spiritual dimension of it. And so therefore, when this translates into a community saying, now all of a sudden it becomes super exciting because actually we can start to engage in a lot of social, ethical, whatever dialogue issues that are going on in the world from a new perspective and inform a conversation that's not boxed, like you said, not boxed in a religious kind of setting, to kind of say, we can speak from a spiritual perspective in a secular setting, and that's doable.
Wow. It's one of the things that people most worry about when they come into spiritual circles, like seeing the world from the perspective of what I share, kirtan and bhakti.
Yeah, exactly.
It's something that people fear the most, is being converted to something that's uniform, that makes everyone look the same, talk the same, eat the same. And I didn't quite understand that fear initially because I felt like it was kind of nice to be part of a community that did all those things in a uniform way. But now I get that we're all people who are different and personal in different ways. Then our relationship with God is also going to be personal. And I think that the danger, though, with that is that we end up throwing the baby out with the bathwater as well by going, fine, look, we're not focusing on conversion, but then let's also be loose with our practices as well. There's no discipline attached to that. There's no uniformity there, and there's no structure there. And that's the kind of danger of, both sides of the coin. So I don't know whether I'm left or right here.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, you must experience it a lot just in terms of the way that, you know, you're kind of sharing spirituality with the wider world, right? So but, you know, that's the nature of truth. Like, it's true for everything. It's not just true for spirituality, and it's not just a one-size-fits-all anywhere. And you can always take that to its extreme, which is a free-for-all state. But we don't do that with anything else. Why would we do it with spirituality? And I think that's the point about getting specific and really clear about what do we mean by it, because then it doesn't become a free-for-all, which can be abused, right? And has been abused, and in the same way that it has in religious institutions. So, there's an interplay there. But I think that space of exploration about what does that look like, what does it mean, what does it mean for you, and what does it mean for, and having that dialogue is actually where you get a broader perspective on something, right? So that's the exciting space, I think.
Right.